Buckingham Palace, Queen of England 2. He announces that Elizabeth has lost her life. Queen 2, who died at the age of 96. Elizabeth was succeeded by her eldest son Charles, who became the new king and head of state of England. In the plan called Operation London Bridge 2, Elizabeth's funeral was leaked to the press before her death. Well, 2. When and how will Elizabeth's funeral be held? See, 2. Details of Elizabeth's funeral. England has begun to mourn. Buckingham Palace, Queen of England 2. He announces that Elizabeth has lost her life. Queen 2, who died at the age of 96. Elizabeth was succeeded by her eldest son Charles, who became the new king and head of state of England. In the plan called Operation London Bridge 2, Elizabeth's funeral was leaked to the press before her death. Well, 2. When and how will Elizabeth's funeral be held? See, 2. Details of Elizabeth's funeral. England has begun to mourn. Queen 2, who holds the title of the longest reigning monarch of the United Kingdom, has been on the throne for the longest time. With the death of Elizabeth at the age of 96, England began to mourn. Flags were lowered to half-mast in the country, events were cancelled, the royal family temporarily closed the official website for use. Flags at royal residences and government buildings were lowered to half-mast, while cultural and sports events began to be cancelled. The national mourning that began over the Queen's death is expected to last until the funeral takes place. The Empire State Building in New York, USA, was also illuminated in memory of the Queen who lost her life. What will happen during the 12-day mourning period? Although no official announcement has yet been made about the funeral of the Queen, who died at the age of 96, it is expected that the Queen's funeral will first move from Balmoral Castle in Scotland to Buckingham Palace in London, where she will stay for 5 days. With the death of the Queen, Charles, Prince of Wales, the heir to the throne, is expected to sign the official plans in the coming days. In addition, the UK government is not expected to make any major decisions or announcements unless compelled to, in order to ensure that the focus of the agenda remains with the Queen. Charles is expected to have his first meeting. A ceremony and a national minute's silence are expected to be held in Hyde Park and Tower Hill on the first day of mourning. King Charles is expected to have his first meeting with the Prime Minister. He will also meet with the Earl Marshal to formally sign off on the full funeral plans, with the funeral expected to be held within 10 days. Rehearsals will be held for the passage of the Queen's body from Buckingham Palace to Westminster Hall. The body is expected to arrive at Buckingham Palace a few hours before the grand ceremony scheduled to take place in London. It will be open to the public for 23 hours. In the coming days, the Queen's body will be open to the public for 23 hours a day at the Palace of Westminster. King Charles will travel to Wales to attend a Mass at Llandaff Cathedral in Cardiff, after which he will visit the Welsh Senedd and accept a condolence. Ahead of the funeral, Charles will welcome foreign royals attending the funeral. How long will the Queen's coffin be kept waiting? The funeral of the Queen, who died at Balmoral Castle, will be taken to London by royal train. The funeral will be attended by the Prime Minister and senior ministers. It is expected that the rehearsal of the Queen's funeral ceremony will take place on D-Day +4, after which the Queen's coffin will remain in the Palace of Westminster for 4 days. When will Queen Elizabeth's funeral take place? Queen Elizabeth II is. Elizabeth's funeral will be held on September 19. A state ceremony is expected to be held for the funeral at St. Peter's Church, located inside the Palace of Westminster, in 2 weeks. A 2-minute silence will take place. Ceremonies will be held in London and Windsor. The day of the funeral will be announced by Buckingham Palace, and the Queen will be buried in the King George VI Memorial Chapel. 2. Where will Queen Elizabeth be buried? Queen Elizabeth II is. Following Elizabeth's death, during the 12-day mourning period, the flags will be lowered to half-mast, the announcers will be dressed in black and the deputies will also wear black flannel. Queen Elizabeth II is. While the day of Elizabeth's funeral has been declared a public holiday, there will be no trading in banks and the London Stock Exchange. The Queen's body will be displayed in Westminster Hall for 4 days, and the Queen and her husband, the Duke of Edinburgh, are expected to be buried side by side.